Welcome to the Leadership Puzzle. I'm your host, Jeff Lupinacci, co-founder of Evolve HR Solutions. In this project, we're taking a journey to uncover the mysteries of leadership with some of the world's most accomplished leaders. In each episode, we discover the distinct insight from each of these great leaders, enabling us to refine our leadership skills and become more effective leaders. Piece by piece, together, we will assemble the leadership puzzle. Leaders today have an onslaught of issues and challenges that take both a physical and mental toll on them. If leaders don't find time to recover from the demanding schedules and constant stress of daily work, they find themselves heading towards a problem. Unfortunately, I have seen too many leaders get burnt out, have had mental breaks, or even have their bodies give out. It is as important as ever for leaders to find time for renewal to sustain themselves. Our guest today will provide some practical ways for energy renewal as a strategic leadership puzzle piece. I am so excited to host Guisy Buonfantino, the former Vice President of Consumer Packaged Good Industries for Google Cloud at Google. She's also held roles as the Chief Digital and Marketing Officer at Amway and the Chief Marketing Officer at Kimberly Clark. As always, our podcast is sponsored by Evolve HR Solutions, a global HR consulting, recruiting, and software company that's dedicated to meeting all of your HR needs. Guisy, thank you so much for joining me today. It's great to have you on the Leadership Puzzle.
Nice to see you.
You're sitting in New York City.
Yes. I'm in a very sunny New York today. Nice to see you, Jeff.
Oh, it's great seeing you. You know, Guisy, I have a confession to make. When we first met at Kimberly Clark, I was really nervous the first time that I got to meet you. You just thought of as this amazing leader, and you know you're from Italy, and just had worked in some great organizations. I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting an icon in the marketing world.
Oh my God, we had great time together, and it was also during tough time. You remember, and we had this common ground, and we did great things after that.
You have an amazing journey. You've worked with some of the world's most admired companies: Johnson & Johnson, Kimberly Clark, Google, Amway, are just a couple of examples of the great companies. Your career's super impressive. Can you just kind of talk to us about the path that you've walked in your journey?
Well, let me start with my youth passion. You know, every kid has a passion. Usually they want to be a police, a doctor, whatever. I want to be employed in a supermarket. That was my dream. Haha. And I was
Okay.
always asking my mom to go to the supermarket or grocery store, I mean, the big one, the hypermarket, after school, so I could join. And even myself, when I was allowed to go out of home by myself, I had a big hypermarket close to my home. I was spending hours in the aisle of cookies, pasta, and very often asking people that were shopping, why do they buy this? Why do they buy that? And yeah,
Really?
I had this passion for what then I understood was consumer goods or consumer packaged goods that people
Interesting.
use every day. And that I really thought that after my university, I wanted to do marketing. But when I was young, I didn't know how to even say. So my first job in marketing was a brand manager at Johnson& Johnson. Wonderful company, as you
Okay.
said, Johnson& Johnson Consumer, today CameView. Um, and that was my first role. I stayed with Johnson & Johnson almost 18 years. I always preferred to cover a role or get a role where I could impact. And impact for me were two things. Impact on results is so important because
Yep.
results then give you the next step, the next
Right.
promotion, the next role. So sometimes passions are important. Some categories, some brands, you are more passionate, but you also have to be able to create an impact on results. And the
Right.
second impact, which I probably understood later, is impact on people, thinking about their career, not my career, having this flywheel of people and talents that talk about you like you said at the beginning, a positive way, hopefully, and that gave you this, they give you the next role, and they give you the next role. It's the team that always promoted me to.
So of all of the brands that you've led, and you've led some amazing brands, I think like Neutrogena and Huggies and others. What was your favorite brand to kind of get your hands into and help
Ah,
out?
and many, you're right, many. I would say when I was very early in my career at Johnson and Johnson, there was Johnson's Baby. I mean, still is there, and the equivalent in Europe was called Penaten. I was an
Okay.
acquisition of Johnson& Johnson in Germany, and I could really create products with the research and development locally, going to the plant with the research and development and create the first top to top shampoo. That was amazing. And I do remember very vivid a production of print advertising for parents magazine with kids. It was like quite something. It's not really easy to produce and to get the kids in a certain position, or they were all in diapers, by the way, so it was,
Oh,
I'll never
geez.
forget. More than brand, I think the passion for the consumers that use that brand and the connection of those consumers with what I was trying to do, that was my key driver.
You've gone from living in Italy to now in New York City. Really just a great journey. I'd like to start digging into your leadership puzzle. This great picture that you've created for yourself in terms of your leadership skills and capabilities and that whole journey. I'd love to just get your perspective of how have you transitioned between, some of those different cultures, and what are some of the unique challenges that you faced?
Let's start with one positive, which is I mitigate the challenges of transitioning from one role to another one country to another one company to another one, because I have a natural agility and adaptability that helps me to, go through things with looking at the positive all the time and adapting myself and adapt my leadership style to the environment. That's a great quality that everybody should master into their world. Challenges, of course, the challenges of culture differences, way of working differences that are also driven by different culture. So think about it, working in Italy in a Latin environment, non-diverse, because Italian, especially at that time, there was not really diversity in the workplace, except the basic diversity of women in leadership position. And they moved to United Kingdom. That is an incredibly diverse environment, and I appreciate
Right.
tremendously not just the diversity of race and culture, but also diversity of thoughts that come with that, representing the consumer of the world. And then moving to the US and having what I call shock, like complete shock, um, and having to really adjust myself because the way of working is very different. And it was more about the need of fitting a culture and a company than adding to a culture and a company
Hmm.
what I could bring. So fitting was very
Right.
important. I wouldn't say it was right, but was very important, and it cost me a lot of effort.
You had mentioned that your father was a real role model for you from a leadership perspective. I'd love to hear a little bit of how he influenced you as a
Oh
leader.
yes, my father is 92 today and still strong. Well, first of all, the to be a strong leader, you have to be also strong, high energy and strong physically, because it's a very intense, and he still exercise 3 times per week. And when he was
Wow.
in a leadership position in a bank, he was actually napping, in between. That was the way to regenerate. So that's the first things I
Right.
learned. being a leadership position is not just a job, it's a responsibility. You need to be fresh, you need to be energetic, you need to be driving, and you cannot bring at work all your problems. Although we are vulnerable, we need to be in shape, or in shape mentally and physically, to be able to drive. And so that's come with resting, exercising. For those who that like exercise, I don't really like, but resting, walking, refreshing your your mind to be always there for the people, and attentive. And the second, already at this time, he was surrounding himself with diverse talent. In fact, I never saw so many women in leadership position, even at those times. We're talking about 40, 50 years ago. He always refer to my team, and they still see each other. And there are many, many women that were in his leadership team.
So you had a great role model of what it looks like to have a diverse
Yes,
team.
yes, yes. It's really incredible.
You brought up this idea of this kind of mental wellness and regeneration through exercise. I'm with you. I'm not a big exercise guy, which you could tell
Oh,
if I wasn't sitting down. But I do think one of the biggest challenges that leaders face today is this onslaught of changes that have just accelerated since COVID,
true.
right? The markets, all these events that are outside of leaders' control. We can't control the markets.
Absolutely. I almost think that under pressure is now a constant. I mean, in the past,
Yeah.
you would have had to manage yourself under pressure because maybe the results were not coming a quarter, some one event that could be, a war that disrupt the supply chain, but it would be very rare in your life, career life. Today is the new normal. So this concept of managing a business and the people that work with you under pressure is today the normal. So it's very important to go out of the pressure and again regenerate and go back in. You mentioned COVID and all the changes, but I also want to mention the pace of learning that a leader has to embrace with technology. That wasn't such a thing even before COVID. Think about the
Right.
AI now, generative AI and AI application to a business. So how do you cut the time out of your daily job to make yourself current, and hence allow also your workforce to do the same by example?
You bring up an interesting idea, and if you listen to people in the news, they might say AI is going to take people's jobs. I do a lot in the HR space, and I have HR leaders go, "Well, I'm not going to be needed in a little while because of AI." How do you respond to employees or even leaders that AI is just another tool? It's not going to replace people.
I completely agree. I completely agree. It's not going to replace people. It's probably going to change some roles and maybe even better and allow marketers, for instance, and people in marketing, and then we can touch on HR, people in marketing to be more effective in personalization of content, correct? In connecting with their consumer, getting to personalize, getting to target segment of consumer or consumer one-to-one in a more efficient way, an effective way.
Yep.
But still, the strategy, the thinking is has to be there. I guess in
Yeah.
HR, it will probably be easier to automate processes that are not really added value, that cannot add
Right.
value, but the human capital is still super important. I I was very impressed by a company that hire and review CVs, hundreds of thousands of CVs every year because they hire 30,000 people per year, and many are like this, maybe a smaller scale. Of course, the first screen of those documentation is through AI, but likely
Yeah.
allowed to screen more people and then get to the point, and then the next
Right.
steps will be a lighter touch, maybe a questionnaire automation, and but then there will be, of course, the talent leader that will review fewer documentation and will focus on the person indeed.
My perspective is AI is just the next generation of evolution of the workplace, right? I mean, we had the industrial revolution, and then I remember when the internet first came on and everyone thought, "Oh, my job's going away." Well, jobs just
Yes.
change. They
Correct,
evolve.
correct. I remember that. I remember that. And if you think about it, one thing that disappear is the fax machine, not the person doing the
Yep.
But yes, yes,
That's
yes.
right.
It's another machine that replaces another machine, less sophisticated. And I think it's very exciting. And I would suggest that every leader embrace this change and bring the right elements to the run the business more effectively. Hence, if the business grow, also partially to AI, you can hire more people, you can become bigger and more competitive, reach more people around the.
I think leaders are going to be critical in this transition.
Absolutely, absolutely. But takes time. So there
Yeah.
are a lot of tutorial online. There are a lot of vendors that leaders, of course, or companies have already relationship. We need to take the time to adopt and to learn. And it's not an easy topic. I
Yeah.
come from Google, as you know, and for me, it was all about AI on Google Cloud. And the first few months I joined Google, let's say the first 6 months, it was really a very tough topic to learn and digest at the pace needed. So I can only imagine, the evolution of a leader has to be there.
Well, I'd like to shift a little bit. We could probably spend a whole hour on AI, but I know a lot of our listeners are interested in getting on board seats, and you had an opportunity to be on the board of directors of Carter's, which is a really great company. Can you share your perspective of what it takes to be on a board of a large company like a Carter's, and what's the difference of a leadership expectation of being on a board versus a chief marketing officer?
Very different. And it was again a learning experience. Well, as you know, join a board is about long-term strategic planning, governance of the company, supporting the management team to make decision. At the end of the day, generating shareholder value, creating shareholder value and stakeholder value. So it's definitely a longer term view. While of course it's very important to make sure that the quarterly objectives are met, but it's supporting the management team, supporting the succession planning, and definitely is not to make decisions. I think that's
Right.
the biggest element is a board does not make the decision. It's the management team, and it's a big shift when you actually go in a boardroom versus a leadership team in which you are requested from your team, okay, someone to make the decision or to facilitate the decision in that room. There's more about
Right.
inputting. At the end of the day, while the KPIs on a daily basis are different, they ladder to the same long-term view. A successful leader in a corporation has to work for the long-term longevity and healthiness of their brands, of the consumer connection, consumer loyalty, because again, it's not just the daily problem solver, but it's the long-term view of the success of the company. So they ladder to the same main goal.
On the flip side, you also do some angel investing. And I know a lot of our listeners are interested in doing that and maybe giving back. And I imagine that you're using slightly different leadership skills and you're looking for different leadership skills as you are looking at startups or companies to invest in. What's that like?
Now, well, first of all, as part of the learning agility, I think that's very important. Why do I do that? First of all, to support younger professionals that have great ideas. I cannot support them all, but I help them to, do a pitch deck and get a real big money from investor and venture capital firms. Because this is the age of entrepreneur. Gen Z want to be entrepreneur. They unfortunately don't want to work for big companies. They want to invent, grow their business fast. They want to have an impact in the world. So it's really about helping them to succeed in building their company or their brand. Is usually one product, one idea, very, very concentrated, and get them fly. So it's no processes that have to be followed, but just a great decision, great support in a very, very fast time.
Have you ever thought about starting your own
Yes,
company?
of course. That's the next frontier. And again,
Got it.
it's part of the learning. And in today's world, you need to know also your competitors. So when you are part of a large corporation like Kimberly Clark, like Johnson and Johnson, Google as well, you know that your competitors are not just anymore the big brands or the private label brands. Your
Right.
competitor are
Right.
thousands of new ideas that compose maybe a 10% of the total market, but they are
Yeah.
growing very fast using different levers that big company are a bit slow to adopt. So that's why
Yeah.
I do it, both the angel and my own little projects, to learn and see how it is. And maybe, I'll have a good idea.
Every leader that I talk to has some form of aha moment that shaped their leadership. Is there an event or an individual who, kind of shaped who you became as a leader?
Oh, yeah, for me I call it a traumatic event. So we talk about impact, choosing a career path for impact on results and impact on people. The positive impact on people came a little bit later in my career, the need to focus on that. So I was a general manager in Italy, young in my career, early in my career, so not very mature. And I drove with my team a tremendous result impact in 4 years. Great. So I got even a promotion that brought me to the United States. Great job, Juicy.
Right.
Except, I'll never forget, I did not receive a party, a farewell party, when I
Hmm.
got promoted and left. So I thought, oh, that's very strange. I think my team is doing a party because I'm leaving. Because I was extremely focused on the results and not on people. And
Okay.
that was, the party was make me understand, especially in Italy, everybody does parties when somebody leave and birth, etc. And now receiving a party
Yeah.
was a little bit of a shocking.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Wake up
and
call.
I said, I want from now on everybody to want and to love to work for me and with me, and this is going to be my big change to have a positive impact on people. And I implemented this rule since then.
I think that's really telling about an organization when you see others who leave or get promoted being thrown parties and you don't. It is definitely a shock. It's like, wait a second, what
What did I
happened
do
here?
wrong? Yeah, we achieved the
Yeah.
results. Everybody got rewarded, but a bigger bonus is not necessarily what people look, or only the thing that people look. I really miss the human touch, the time, the undivided attention. When you are very often you see leader that multitask is something I dislike completely when they do it to me, and I committed to give undivided attention to people. Doesn't happen all the time, but that's super important. So all these soft skills that I didn't have, and it was a big trauma.
That's one of the things that I really appreciated about you, Juicy, is when you're talking to the person, you're not doing five other things. And you focus on the person, and that's a rare skill and a gift that you give the person that
Yeah,
you're
I hope so. And
interacting
they
with.
give a gift to me. One rule I put in my calendar is to always have a couple of hours per day free. One, there is
Mm.
the regeneration element, the time to read an email and reply appropriately, not too fast. And two, there's always somebody that needs to talk to you. an emergency or not an emergency, a personnel issue or opportunity, an HR issue, legal issue, or a simple uh, to have a coffee in the common areas of an office. Hopefully, we go back to this and meet people and spending time. And that's a super important. And again, I didn't do it when I was early in my career. I was back to back. I don't like the back
Yeah.
to back.
You mentioned the in office environment. That's a big topic, especially among HR leaders around virtual, hybrid, in office. What's your perspective? Do you think we'll get back to 100% in office, or is this virtual world here to stay?
Such a touchy feeling topic. Well, I'm thinking about again, new to the profession, so new brand manager, new finance manager, new executive assistant, new everything. Correct. Think about the people we hire and intern. What different feeling they must have to spend their life in a small home. Sometimes they're younger, correct, and to meet their boss or their team only on video. How I mean, it's different. I don't think it's fair. At the same time, we are now in a world in which we respect the balance of work and life, and we want to give our employees flexibility. But we need to probably accelerate the reunion and the go back to the common office at least a number of days. I like the 3 and 2, 3 at the office, 2 out, other like other things. I think it's super super important to drive innovation. And again, if our competitors and the competitors of the big companies are also startup, they make idea around the kitchen.
Yeah.
And Google, for instance, which was an amazing experience. The kitchen area is where majority of the ideas come out, and that's why it's important
Uh,
to go back to the office at Google, which is, by the way, is not really an office, is an experience, because it's where
yeah.
people get historically the idea. So I'm in
Yeah.
favor going back a little bit more.
All right, well, let's transition and have a little bit of fun to our lightning round. So I'm just going to throw you out some questions, and we'll just move from question to
Okay.
question really quickly. All right, so we know you're originally from Italy. What's your favorite Italian wine that you can share with the
Oh,
audience?
Etna Bianco. It's a volcanic area in Sicily, and I love that. It's different.
So if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Manage calm under pressure.
The best meal you've ever had in your life?
Okay, I'm not that foodie, so always the environment has to be part of the best meal. So I have breakfast in the savannah, hot pots in Yunnan, which is a location in China. And if you like Capri, I love Capri. Lemon spaghetti al limone at the Paolino restaurant in Capri. It's not my relative, so it's not an advertising. That's really great.
Oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. So you mentioned the savannah. I know you love animals. So what's your favorite
Oh,
animal?
I don't know if I can pronounce it. It's a mix of a dog and a pig. Warthog? Warthog.
Warthog.
You
The
know,
warthog.
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna
Hakuna Matata.
Matata.
Yeah, it's my favorite because unfortunately it's very easy to catch. Because this is a little bit like you have a pig in the savannah. Well, the lion is going to catch him very, very fast. I mean, there's no slower animal than that, and I really love it.
Everyone has unique attributes. We call them puzzle pieces. What puzzle piece, what unique attribute do you bring to your team?
I think I'm the edge. The edge is the team is inside me.
Pull
Yeah,
it all
put it
together.
together.
Yeah, love it, love it. Then what would you say that others would say your puzzle piece is?
Oh, it's the one that get lost. There's always something under the rug, under the sofa. And this, I mean, when everybody does the puzzle, I go under the chair, under the cabinet to find the piece that eventually got lost. So I want to find it fast.
I love to give my guests a chance to tell the listeners something that's important to them, some passion. I know you've posted a lot on LinkedIn recently about a nonprofit that you're actively involved in. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's very important as a leader to give back. Correct? A career is made of learning and producing, and then you have to give back, not just to people, but to the world, of course, of one passion. Possibly the biggest achievement of my career is to become a board member of City Meals on Wheels. It's a New York organization for supporting and providing meals and compassion to 22,000 elderly in New York.
Nice.
And I really worked to bring food to elderly for all a decade. And then finally, I got a seat at this board. It was a big achievement. And I think it's important because, by the way, it's all people that had jobs, but maybe low social security, was a dents and didn't pay their taxes, or whatever it is, they need compassion and they need food, which is quite shocking. So my message is find your passion and refresh yourself every day as a leader with doing something for others, because that's what we're really here for.
That's great, Juicy. I know a lot of listeners are in the New York City boroughs area. You can check out City Meals
Yeah,
on
org,
Wheels
not
at
org.
www.citymeals.org. So
Volunteer is the best.
great. Now I have one last question, and we'll get you going. What advice would you give our listeners on implementing their own leadership strategy to grow their capabilities, whether they're leading a team of 5 or 500?
Be true to who you are and be agile. Learning agility is super important today. And think that a work environment is made of people, and people are what they bring you to the next level.
Thank you so much, Juicy. We really appreciate you coming and spending a few minutes with us today.
Fantastic. It's so nice to see you, Jeff.
What an awesome interview with Guisy Buonfantino, who shared her leadership puzzle piece of Renewal. She reminded us of the importance of making time to rejuvenate our energy so that we can be the best leaders possible for our employees. Thank you again for tuning in. And remember to subscribe, like, and review our podcast. You can find us on all of the social platforms at The Leadership Puzzle, also shown on the banner below. Tune in next time where we have a conversation with one of my favorite people in the world, Tim Lupinacci, CEO of Baker Donaldson.
Bonnie St. John says that the reason she won the gold was that she was the quicker getter-upper. That's really helped me because it is true. As a leader, you're going to get knocked down. I mean, you're guaranteed you're going to get knocked down as a leader.